Greetings, everybody. Sorry I'm a little late for this one. This abbreviated version of our weekly live. I apologize if those of you who are staying up late. We had a bit of a family emergency. Everybody's good. Everybody's fine. We had a little traffic accident that I had to deal with. I think we're under control, at least for the moment, with cars being towed. No injuries, none whatsoever, all good, but demanded my attention. So thank you for understanding. So I wanted to connect with you guys. Couple big milestones that you might want to know about. The first draft of the new book, Summit Leadership, is complete. Those of you that are interested in reviewing it, some advanced copies, let me know. And we'll see about getting you some pieces of it. And I'd love to get a little bit of your feedback. In 13 days, 12 days, I'll be leaving for Kilimanjaro. And obviously during that time, we'll have a live feed next week. But the next 2 weeks after that, I'll be on top of a mountain at 19,341 feet. So I won't be able to broadcast or do anything from there, but we'll send pictures. So lots of great things happening, lots of exciting things happening. And I just wanted to share with you a couple of thoughts. I was sharing, and again, if you have any, this is a good session. If you have any questions that you want to pose, just type them in the comment section and let me know. Here's a couple of things I do want to mention though. We talk about true learning. And I was working with a group, our Diamond certification level group this morning, mostly from India. And we were talking about, hello, Agnes. And we were talking about learning, teaching, facilitating. And one of the problems with traditional education is it's a single phase type of an education. What do I mean by that? I mean by that is that it's purely a mental process. You sit, you listen, that's it. And then you regurgitate. That's pretty much the way it goes. But the truth of it is, if you can imagine a pyramid with four corners. Mental is one point, but also there's emotional IQ, there's emotional learning. Okay, there is physical learning, and there's even spiritual learning, all four. And one of the reasons that school doesn't seem to fulfill our needs unless we're looking for hard data is because school does not address really those other needs, those other modalities. Those modalities, I will call them modalities, are areas that the way we absorb information, things that affect our lives. Think about it for a second. If you're going to make an investment, there's no way you make an investment purely on facts, which is the mental process. There is some emotion that goes along. Do I trust the person selling me something? Is this the right thing to do? So it's a mental process, but it's also an emotional process, okay? In some cases, for children particularly, it's a very physical process. They can't sit still. Their bodies need to move. And you know as well as I do is when you're doing something that you really enjoy, or you're doing something that has major impact in your life, or you're in a flow, it can be a spiritual experience. Soldiers in the field talk about, even though they're under tremendous stress and threat, it's a spiritual experience to understand that the people on both sides of you are there to help you save your life, and you're saving theirs. So there's lots of learning going on at all levels. The challenge with school is that those things are going on. Those things can be going on, but the challenge with that is that school doesn't address it. So it doesn't mean that a curriculum has to have an emotional component and a spiritual. It means, listen closely, that you, if you're a trainer or a leader or a parent, as a facilitator, need to understand and be able to help the learner pull those lessons. Or if it's learning for yourself, how am I feeling emotionally about this? Okay. How's my body feeling right now? Is this online with my purpose in life? Am I doing something I'm supposed to be doing? So again, it's not up to the individual to create a curriculum or to be able to to do those things. It's to be able to spot where that learning is coming from and be able to help people gain the emotional win, the spiritual win, and the physical win. Now, as a facilitator, as a trainer, if you're able, even on a Zoom, to be able to do all of those together or demonstrate all of those together, then then there's going to be a lot more learning. Okay. Hello from Belgium. Thank you, David, for the book, and congratulations. Vietnam, Bucharest. Bucharest, that's nice. Keep up the good work. Schools offer only a guide. That's right. And school's not bad. Let me just say this. Bucky Fuller said it really well. School believes that the goal, this way, you're looking at the goal is to, let's say, learn mathematics. Or let's say, take a better one, is to learn history. Okay. Now, what happens is along the way to history, when he says the side effects of learning history are actually more important than the main effect, which is learning the history. In other words, if let's say a group of students need to put together a project to talk about World War I. Okay, World War I. Okay, so they have to get together, work as a team, do research, figure that out, get in arguments with each other, resolve who's doing what, deal with their frustrations. So in the lead up to learning about World War II, what Fuller says, the side effects are the main effects. The side effects, the ripple effects of going for that are the main effects, because the student is learning about teams, they're learning about dealing with emotions, how to communicate properly, how to research, and in addition to the course material. But the problem is that with school doesn't capture that learning, which is the life learning. We're left to that on our own. That's why I believe that the world needs great teachers and leaders. So whether and you don't need to teach learning, you teach whatever you know. Teach real estate investing, teach financial literacy, teach health, teach parenting, whatever it is. But to understand that there are lessons all around it that may be even more important than learning how to be a better parent. You learn how to be a better person. You learn how to be I've heard many, many times when I have coached people, when they set a goal. I work with a very senior executive from a very large beauty company. And her goal was to achieve her next executive level. But along the way, as we worked together for about 6 weeks, what she found was the love of her life, and she subsequently, not during the 6 weeks, but subsequently married him. And so what she found, what she really wanted out of the whole thing, she wanted a relationship, she wanted a husband, she wanted all. So the goal, as I've always said, is never it. Okay. And along the way, if the facilitator can help capture the wins, what are you learning here? What are you learning there? How does that feel? How do you feel about this? Is this in line with your purpose? How do you physically feel when you're doing this job as opposed to this job or this job? Okay. And to help capture that, then all of a sudden the learner, or in this case, my client just goes, this is so good. I'm really realizing what I really want. And she got it, and she's happier than ever. And she's somewhat resigned her senior position. She's now works with them as a consultant, as a free agent. So she still keeps the industry she loves, okay, and makes some pretty decent money doing that, but on her time and when she wants to, and doing all the things that she likes to do. And she found the love of her life and now has a family. So that's a great example of being able to help somebody capture the learning. Yeah, David, you're right. The side effects are the main effects. That's Bucky Fuller, okay? And that's what I wanted to share with you. Is true learning is not necessarily the goal of what you're going for. So the question I ask you is, you can't depend on the school system or depend on a trainer or coach to do that for you. You got to do it you got to be willing to do it for yourself. Now, of course, a little pitch. We teach several programs that teach you how to do that, where we teach trainers how to do it. But I would say in our master facilitator program, up until very recently, over half of the people that take the program do not want to be professional facilitators. they're just leaders of teams and they want to learn how to do that. And learning how to capture that and learning how to teach that way will change people's lives. I mean, it truly will change people's lives. So I encourage you to take a look at it. Now, there's one more subset, and then hopefully you'll ask some questions. Hey, Tiffany, I am doing great. I hope you're doing great. Brenda Laborde, excellent history. Right on. Okay. One more piece, though. So let's remember again. So remember the pyramid. You have mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, right? Okay. Let's look at physical for a second. So let's break down physical, because physical is not just, what is physical? Physical is mental. Is visual, what you see, auditory, what you hear, and kinesthetic, what you feel or what you physically experience. So that's even a bigger breakdown. So as a trainer or a leader or a coach or as an individual, how are you learning? In other words, are you learning by reading books? I mean, reading books is good, and listening and lectures, that's pretty good. That's mostly auditory, and auditory is good. But if you look at I should have looked this up. Maybe one of you can look it up while I'm doing this. Is if you look at the number of bits of information that the body is receiving, the mind is receiving through an auditory function, through sound, as opposed to vision, you'll notice that there is a gigantic discrepancy. In other words, and I don't know the numbers, okay? But if auditory are thousands of bits per second, then visual are like hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of bits per second. If you think about all the sensory input that comes through your eyes as opposed to what you hear is typically very linear. You notice what I mean? In other words, if you've got somebody else trying to talk to you at the same time somebody else is talking to you, you can't do it because it's hard to decipher all that. It's very linear. But visual, you're bringing all of it in at one time. And by the way, reading, some of you may not know this. This is kudos to my sister, Sarah. Reading is primarily what? Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? Okay. The answer is it's primarily auditory. It's not, it's visual because you're bringing it in, but it's auditory coming in. And then when you speak, it's auditory coming out. Auditory in, auditory out. Okay. So what happens is that the reason reading and lecture are so low in terms of retention is it because of what I'm just saying. It's very linear. By the way, people that are very auditory, they're also very linear in their thinking. That's less than 10% of the human population that's primarily auditory. So what happens is school, again, misses the bigger learning. They have pictures and stuff all over on the walls for little kids. I mean, that's good, but use of maps and use of color and use of outdoor experiences adds to the visual and the kinesthetic. How does that feel? Kinesthetic is not just physically doing things, it's also how it feels when you do it or how it feels when you're learning something. So when you stand up, so watch this. So a teacher gives an assignment. I want you to have your report ready by Friday. You're going to do a book report and you're going to do it verbally and you cannot read it. Okay, remember these things? So now you're going to get up and you're going to present to your class. So what was the purpose? The purpose was to make sure that you read the material, you could deliver it. But what's going on? For that person, it could be they're traumatized. I mean, they're in front of their peers, they're nervous, their emotion is running high, their intelligence is running low, physically their body is sweating, they're fidgeting, all these things are going on, okay? The least of which are all important things to know. So what's going on here? Why is that happening? So how do we fix that? What's going on here? How do we fix all those things that we could be learning? But no, we just want to see if you remember the material. And we're going to embarrass you in front of everybody in case you screw up. Understand the problem? So visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So auditory, like I said, is a very auditory process. So I asked you one of the questions that I said, lead up to this, I said, how do you learn? Learning your learning style is very important. Now you can go online. There's various diagnostics. We have them too. which will help you decipher your learning style. Are you visual first, then auditory, then kinesthetic? Or are you primarily kinesthetic, auditory, and visual? Or what's the combination? Once you understand that, you can maximize your learning and increase your retention majorly. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Send a comment and let me know that you want to know about the VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. I want to know about the VAK diagnostic, and I'll research my files and I'll get it out to you. It's totally free, and just check it out, okay? Because once you understand it, you can learn. You can really, really learn, as opposed to having being mental. You know, it's mental, and the only physical part is auditory. Mental, auditory. That's enough to drive a person crazy, right? So again, I wanted to bring that up because I think in this day and age, when everything went online and people are having to figure out their own learning, how are you going to learn and how am I going to learn these? You need to understand your own learning style. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic. What's that mean? So if that's the order, if you did the diagnostic, that first of all, you're primarily visual. You make your cues, you make your decisions primarily based on what you see. Secondarily, what you hear, and then last, how you feel. Now, a lot of people are quite the opposite. They're kinesthetic, visual, auditory. Okay, kinesthetic. So first of all, I'm I have an experience. How does that feel to me? What's my gut feeling on that? Is it positive? Is it negative? Am I emotionally involved? And then I take a look at what the situation is, and then finally I'll listen to somebody. For myself, I'm VKA. I'm visual first. What I sort the world based on what I see. You hear it in people's language, right? I base it on what I see, then how I feel, and then what I hear. Make sense? And so when I do that, I know that for me, reading is difficult. Okay, auditory. When listening and reading and both auditory functions, I like to watch videos, quite honestly, because through video, I can really get the information. I can see the person's facial expression. I can see their animation. I can feel their passion behind it. I'm reading a book. It's just black and white, and I don't get any emotion out of it unless I interpret it myself. This is making sense? So as an educator, as a YouTuber, keep these things in mind, because as I said this morning to my group, I said, remember, your content is less important than the way you deliver it. Okay, and that's true across the board. Who you are as a person is the most important. How you show up, your consistency, and all of that, and your passion. But second to that is the way you deliver information, the way you communicate with your kids, the way you communicate with your investors, the way you communicate with your friends or your students. Okay, and then finally is the content should be relevant. Okay. VAK diagnostic, please. Okay, there it is. By the way, everybody's asking for. Okay, please send me. Okay, good. Your knowledge is empowered. Oh, thank you so much. If you recall, a week or two ago, I believe someone was asking about network marketing, and I have requested to put that network marketing routine up in the resource section. So I did follow up on that, and that should be there. If it's not there now, it should be there within the next day or two. So if you're looking for a training routine for network marketers, how to get your sales up, check it out. It's in the free resource section, okay? So yeah, I'll make sure that we get that VAK piece put up there. I'm gonna have to really dig and find it though, because I haven't used it for a very, very long time. Okay, so good. So what questions do you have? Let me check through here. The goal isn't it. That's true. We talked about that. Jorge, strategies on learning. Good. Kancia, I have 45 female acquaintances who is acting like a man. I have a 40, I'm going to assume that's a 45-year-old female acquaintance who's acting like a man. No femininity, no dignity, no emotional intelligence. Do you think after this age, someone can be taught how to change? Okay, so, well, first of all, the answer is absolutely yes. Yes, of course. Anybody that says you can't change after 45 is basically using that as an excuse, in my experience. I am proof positive you can change at 45, you can change at 65, you can change at 95. You can change anytime you want to, if you are aware and conscious. If you're not aware and conscious, there is no change that's going to take place. The only reason a person is going to change is they perceive there's a problem where they are, and they need to move over here. In other words, if I'm standing here and all of a sudden the water starts dripping from the roof onto my head, I perceive there's a problem. Now, I can sit here and get wet, or I can move my chair. So I make a choice to change my position. Okay? Power by definition is the ability to hold a position, change a position, or create a position. I'll say it again. Power is defined by the ability to create a position, hold a position, or change one. And you can do that at any time. Anytime. The challenge, Dana Cancia, or whichever comes first, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, is does the person perceive a problem or an opportunity? I mean, if I'm sitting here and the temperature right where I'm sitting is 80 degrees, it's okay, it's nice. But if over here in the next room, it's 75 degrees, which is much cooler, more comfortable, that's something more desirable over there. It's not that the pain of this is bad, but that's more desirable. So from those two perspectives, pain and pleasure, if you want to call it, people will change. They will change. Now, so there are some people that won't, even in that case, won't. That's true. Some people that won't. It's not that you can't, it's you won't. My son's really good. He says to me, he goes, I want a new car. I go, you're not getting a new car. You got a car. You don't need a new car. He says, I want a new car. I go, well, then go out and earn some money and buy a car. He goes, no, I want you to buy me one. He goes, I'm not going to buy you one right now. He said, I can't do that right now. I'm just not in the position to do it. It's not financially responsible. He goes, no, you can do it. You just don't want to do it. And I listen to him. I go, yeah, you're right. I could, but I don't want to. And that just upset him a little more. But it makes a point. It makes a point. And the point is, people can do a lot of things, but there's some things they just don't want to do. They just don't. That person, your 45-year-old female acquaintance, may not perceive a problem. They may not perceive it unless you point it out to her, or the world points it out to her, or she's able to debrief it, okay? You may know, like a man, no femininity, no dignity, no emotional intelligence. I'm going to ask you this. You obviously have a very big issue with this person based upon the list of things that you listed about her. And I'm going to ask you a question that you're probably not expecting. And the question is this: what is it about her that triggers the upset in you? You may not like me for that, but I'm just telling you the truth. The one thing that I've learned in my life is that the world sends me lots of challenges. Nice people, okay people, bad people, criminal people in my life. And you know what? I can look at them from a victim perspective. I can look at them from a victim perspective. I'm not saying you are, but I would look at them as a victim perspective. Or I can say, okay, so what is the lesson this person's here to teach me? Not that they know they're here to teach me something, but I believe that at this stage in my life and my career, that everything that happens, there's something to learn. I'm not going to say that it's on purpose. I mean, one thing can happen or another thing can happen, but either way, there's something to learn. So what do you learn about you? So I'm saying to you, if you want to change your life right now, you can deny it, you can push it off. Or if you want to change your life, Cancia, right now, then I would say, what is it about that person that's triggering something in you? And what is that trigger going on inside of you? Because you know what? There are a lot of people that are like that. There are a lot of people that are like what you're talking about. And they bother you, they don't bother you, they're fine. But something about this person possibly bothers you. And if it does, by the way, this goes for everybody, because everybody's got somebody in their life that bugs them, right? I do, you do, we all do. What is it that it's not them, it's what's going on inside? What are they triggering inside of me? And so why do I go into reaction? Give me an example. Somebody said, let's say I have somebody that I'm training, coaching, and I'm trying to help them out. Okay, yeah, I'll give you an example. This just happened the other day. Woman came on, was on the call, and we had a lot of people. We had about 600 people, and I had her in the spotlight, and she was asking a question, and so I was starting to give her some advice, and she goes, "Yeah, I know that I'm already doing that." And I tried to say, "Okay, so how about this? A little of that? Yeah, but I'm already doing that." So tell me what your problem was. Well, my problem is I'm just not getting enough traffic on my site. I said, okay, good. So what about this? What about your passion image? Yeah, well, I'm already doing. And finally, after about 5 or 6 times, I found myself starting to get upset. I go, this is interesting. And so then I realized, rather than, because my normal mode would be, you don't want to listen to anything. I'm done. That was the old Blair years ago. Okay. I just get frustrated. You've ever been frustrated? So in this case, I go, oh, okay, I got it. I go, you know what? I understand that right now you've created an insolvable question in your mind. And, and when you have an insolvable question, it's a big open loop, and it's very, very frustrating, right? She goes, yeah, that's right. And I said, so, because what I realized that for me, that's what happens to me. I get a question in my brain, I can't get it answered, and so I'm like searching, and people say, what about this? And I go, no. Okay, so what goes on for me? The reason I got upset is because I saw myself in her. I said, so my suggestion to you is, if you want the answers to these questions, you got to put yourself in the right place at the right time with the right people, and trust that you have the right people around you, and then ask the right questions. If you ask the right questions of the right people, you get the right answers, you get the right solutions. Some people call that luck. That's called self-determination and being conscious about it. So you have to trust that I know what I'm talking about in this area, and because I've got about 30 years experience in it, and you've got about 3, okay? And I'm happy to help you, but I'm not going to be able to help you if you're already shutting down the walls and not willing to probe a little bit deeper into those areas. That makes sense? And she got a bit emotional, and she nodded her head. And so what I got is, I think she got the lesson. The lesson had nothing to do with traffic to her website. The thing had to do with her ability to learn, her ability to listen, her willingness to change. So you see what I'm saying? Is that there are people that everybody can, but not everybody will. And not everybody has somebody that's willing to hold up a mirror for them to be able to see how they respond in a learning environment, okay? So yes, they can absolutely change. What else will make a person change? Unfortunately, a traumatic experience will cause some people to change. But good coaching and good teaching, good training, helping a person get to the core issue. If a person like this is a female acting like a man, no femininity, no dignity, no emotional intelligence, I don't know what all that really means specifically. But what I know is that if a person is operating from these areas, somewhere underneath all that is an issue for them. That may have nothing to do with any of the things you're talking about. May have to be a deep hurt, a lack of trust. That's a big one. I know that was true for me, a lack of trust. Don't trust other people. So you could take on a male persona. I'm going to be tough. I'm going to be a little obnoxious. I don't care what other people think. Maybe because they've been hurt before. That's why when we teach people to coach, there's certain questions that you can ask that help people through that, so they can come to an awareness. Because if you ever come to a program with me, you'll notice when people ask a question, they rarely get an answer to the question that they're asking. They get a question that's underneath the question. Okay. But the most important thing I don't want to get into all that right now, but the most important thing, Kinsia, is if you have people, or any of you, Jorge, Tiffany, Brenda, Tennille, all of that, if you guys have people in your life or things in your life that upset you, first, you can go through the upset. I got it. But as soon as you can, as soon as you settle down, ask yourself, what is it that got triggered or lit up inside of me in the presence of that person? Why is it? And I'm going to guarantee you, in many cases, because there's a part of you over there in that other person that's upset that you don't like about yourself. So work on that, because here's what happens. You work on that and get some good coaching and heal whatever's going on inside of you, then that stuff doesn't affect you. You don't get upset with people that much. I used to get upset a lot. I get upset once in a while, but with other people, but not at all like I used to. Why? Because I systematically. So what is it about this person? What is it about that person? It's not them. What is it about them that triggers what's in me, and what's that thing in here that gets so emotional? Heal that, and then life is great, in my experience. Okay. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. I see a lot of people that want the diagnostic. Gracias, says Brenda. Thank you. This is really good, Blair. Perfect. Trust. Right people, right time, right questions, right answers. Yes, David. Insolvable questions. Insolvable questions. And sometimes you create them to keep yourself stuck. But that's what happens when anybody's stuck. Whether they create it or not, they have an unsolvable question in their mind. How do I make money? Or how do I start my business? Or how do I deal with this upset? Or I'm almost out of money. How do I deal with it? And so they don't have an answer. They create all these excuses. Why? Well, it was COVID-19 and my boss laid us off and all this other stuff, rather than going to the fact that what is the question? What is the real question that you have? Well, the real question is how do I survive using that scenario? How do I survive? Okay, take a deep breath. Okay, good. That's a good question. So if you can answer that question, would you feel better? Yeah. So it's not about your boss, not about this, not about this, it's about survival. Got it. Okay, so that's the right question. So let's come up with some right answers for that. Let's make a list. How could you survive? And how could you flourish? And how could you So it's not about your boss. It's not about COVID. It's not about any of that other stuff. See how that works? And you work your way out, because as long as you're stuck in this mill, you can't do anything. But then all of a sudden you're in the right place, because a person that asks that question with me, hopefully they're in the right place to ask the question. And rather than me trying to answer that question about what do I do to make money, COVID-19 and blah, 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 and all this other stuff, I go, what's the real question here? And at that point, a person has an opportunity to change their life, not just get a job or try to start a business, because the same problem is going to recreate itself. Okay? All right, you guys? All right, good. I'm glad. 1 minute super success tips. I don't know who that is, but that's a nice title. So writing is the real thinking. What's your take on this, Blair from Mumbai? Writing is the real thinking. That's interesting. I never heard that before. I'll give you my opinion. I don't know if it's fact. And I'll give you an example. One of my friends used to be a warden in the New York State prison system. She's retired now, but she was very much into personal development, very spiritual woman, but a tough nut, man. I mean, she's dealing with criminals. Okay. One of the things that she told me is that in the prison system, with prisoners or criminals that have deep psychiatric issues and things like that, is they make them write, Anand. They make them write. And they make them write their thoughts and journal things. Why? Because something happens, because it's such a linear process. It takes all that abstracts, spirituals are probably the most, can be very random. Visual can be very random. All that's very random. And it forces a person to bring it down and put it in writing. So it's a very calm, it has a very calming effect. And it also has a very focusing effect. She didn't tell me, she told me that, but what you also may know is that people that are on death row or life sentences, many of them go through, not all of them, but some of them go through massive changes. Now, they know they're not getting out of prison, but they go through massive changes. They become very spiritual. They become very directed. They become very resigned. Why? Because to answer the person's question earlier, they decided, even though there was no hope, they decided that in these final months or years of my life, I want to become a different person. I want to be somebody different. And so they write. And writing, I agree with you, Anand. Writing is a very therapeutic process, very therapeutic. And having the ability to write, is even more therapeutic than typing is handwriting, because it forces it's more of a physical experience. Okay. So I recommend when people take notes, even on an iPad, don't type them, draw them and write them and do them with color, which is kind of how I do it. Right. So again, that's an interesting process. I would tend to agree with it. Okay. Okay. So can't see it. One more thing. And I got to get going because the craziness has returned to the household. Let's see. Do you agree that the best way to learn is through a leadership system where you lead by example, where people duplicate you, where you evolve spiritually? Wow, that's a pretty loaded question. I'm just going to say this. The best way to learn is to understand that everything you're doing is learning, everything. And with that in mind, the best way to learn is to be in the hands, if you're going to learn from somebody else, a trade, a task, whatever, is you're in the hands of a good facilitator, a person that knows how to teach. Okay. Because that can be lifelong learning. I mean, Tiffany just said, thank you for helping me change my life. Okay. So we're just on a Zoom. We're just on a live stream right now. Thank you, Tiffany. You're very kind. So I'm just going to say, you lead by example, yes. Where people duplicate, possibly. Where you evolve and where you evolve spiritually, of course, that'd be ideal. We don't have the opportunity. It's my dog barking in the background. Excuse me. People running in and out of the house. I think that I'm going to say that a master facilitator is going to get you light years ahead of where you could get yourself. And maybe some of you are those people. Okay, maybe some of you are those people. But in training anybody to do anything, number one is you have to have it's not one answer. There's a whole thing. What's the mission? What are you trying to get done? What are the rules? What's the context around it? Okay, are you literally training people? And when you're training, it's two parts of training. It's the technical side you're teaching and the personal development side that you're teaching also, because there's resistance to making changes we talked about earlier. So that's the personal development. So you got to have both of those going on at the same time. And in that environment, a high level of accountability. Okay, so this is that was a capsule on teaching and learning, and a level of accountability. In other words, can we measure our progress? That's why sales is so cool, because you can measure it. Okay. And then feedback, getting feedback. How did I do? How did I do that? Try it again. To have somebody just model you is good. I do that one time. Typically when I'm teaching somebody, I give a demonstration of what I want done. Usually it's not even me doing it. It's me getting somebody else to do it so everybody can watch that person doing it. Okay. Hopefully they're watching me all the time and I'm doing what I do. Okay. So again, that's probably the best form of learning. Best form of learning is context first, content second. Let me review it again if I can hold that together. Okay. So it's the environment that you're doing it in. What is the task? What are the rules, the code of honor around all that? Okay. And then what is the task itself? Step by step, broken down into small bite-sized chunks. We're going to learn how to drive the golf ball first. Then once we master that, we're going to learn how to putt the ball. Okay. Broken down. And then that's the technical development. Then the personal development side is the side that deals with the resistance to making the change, whatever comes up, and being able to elegantly and easily address all that. And then a high level of accountability to measure, are we learning it? Now, you got to assume that the person's going to practice, because if there's no practice involved, there's no improvement. Okay. And so that's part of the accountability. Did you practice? How many hours did you practice? Okay, so what did you learn from that, and debriefing all of those things. So it's again, if you're interested in that, our Master Facilitator program is an amazing program. I teach all these things, and we put it all together, and you become a Master Facilitator. Probably in this day and age, probably one of the most amazing skills you can have. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. The Greatest Education is watching the Master at work. Oh, thank you, Anna. That's great. Thank you for Code of Honor, Trini. Okay, you guys, thank you for being here. And again, I apologize for being delayed. I'll do one next Thursday again. And then I'll announce it again, but then we're going to skip a couple weeks because I'm going to be on the mountain. Yay! I'll show you some pictures. Okay, so thank you so much. Again, go to blairsinger.com. Check it out. Again, if you requested, I'm not sure if I can capture all this. If you requested the VAK diagnostic, go to my website, go to YouTube, go on Facebook, someplace other than right here, and request it again to make sure I see it. But everything we're talking about here is broadcast on YouTube. We'll keep it there. So go there, subscribe, share it with your friends. Say, look, you really need to see this piece about dealing with ugly people in your life. Okay. Because I think you really need to hear this. But seriously, go there and go to blairsinger.com, because there I'm going to give you all the technical and personal development videos and training in just about every area that has to do with business. Okay. So you can generate lots of good income. All right. Thank you so much. You guys have a great weekend. Be awesome.